which is the registrar's office and student experience. Yeah, so my research interests are holistic education and spirituality in education, especially expressive writing, which is, sorry, that's not related to spirituality in education, but well, in a way it is, but these are all interconnected in a way. So yeah, I specialize in expressive writing, which is sort of grounded in spirituality and education and holistic education. And I'd really recommend you guys to check out expressive writing course offered by Guy Allen. It's for those people who love writing and telling stories and writing personal narratives. Do check him out. And also Jack Miller's courses, which are holistic education courses.
Great.
So yeah.
Thank you so much, Sanaya. So I think in the interest of time, I'm just going to ask a couple of questions and raise your hand if this question applies to you. So if you are a PhD student, raise your hand and we'll see on the pictures. Perfect. Wonderful. Hello, Sharon. Hello, Josh. Hello, Tien. Hello, Cici. Hi, Gabrielle. Good to see you here. Hello, Jennifer. Great. And Wendy. Wonderful. Okay, great. So if you're an MA student, raise your hand. Ali, Talar, Vanessa, Nancy, excellent. Regina, wonderful to have you here. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Great. So it seems like we have a good number of you here. So I'm just going to go right through the information so that we can have the conversation. And maybe if you'd like to say more about yourself when you ask a question, that would be great. Just want to make sure that we cover the information, that we have enough time to do that. So, okay, great. So you'll notice that at some point I went into this image and then I realized that picture is 16 years old. So that picture was taken the first week of my first year as a professor at OST in 2006. So it's not a good picture to have. As you can see, I've aged a bit and it's not always his fault. Just to give you a bit of some of the coordinates of the program and some of the terms that will be relevant for you as you think about enrollment and courses, etc. So you are in the CMP program, so Curriculum and Pedagogy. That's the name of the program that you're a part of, which is part of a larger department called Curriculum, Teaching and Learning. I know all these acronyms are a bit confusing to keep in line, but so your department is CTL, Curriculum, Teaching and Learning. Your program is CNP, Curriculum and Pedagogy. And inside of the CNP program, we generally have two different, what we call tracks. So you are in what we call the thesis track. So those are programs that involve writing a thesis or a dissertation, PhD and MA, as you can see in the degrees, PhD and MA. The other aspect of the program that you might want to keep in mind. So also some of you are in what we call a PhD flex. So you are students who are working full time, and you have, we don't generally, the program requirements and the way that we work with students generally don't really make a distinction between PhD and PhD flex, but there are some structural differences in terms of funding, in terms of access to resources. We also, because we are part of the University of Toronto and within our program, we have two other things that are relevant to your program. One is our emphases, and I will describe the emphases in a moment. Emphases are areas of focus that all the students in our program, both thesis track and MEd track, can take to, they're sort of clusters of courses in particular areas that give you an emphasis. And I'll talk about that in a second. And then we have collaborative specializations. The collaborative specializations are, the term collaborative basically means that they're areas of focus that cut across departments across the university. So some of the collaborative specializations like CID, which is the Comparative International Development Education, is specific to OISE, but there are other collaborative specializations like Women and Gender Studies, and a program on migration, ethnicity and migration that are across the university. So they connect with other departments. And each of those collaborative specializations has different access to different courses, different requirements that are really important for you to focus on. Today, we're only going to focus on the requirements and the course questions about CMP specifically. We don't really have a lot of time, nor actually necessarily the expertise, because some of these collaborative specializations are operated through other programs in other parts of the university. So it's very important that if you are part of a collaborative specialization, that you make sure that you get familiar with the requirements of that collaborative specialization specifically. And we may have some information about them, but not necessarily all of that information. So you can find a lot of information about requirements in the CTL handbook, which hopefully by now you have received at some point, or if not, then Cheryl can give you a link, or make sure you can ask Cheryl, and she will get that information to you. That is all the information that you need in terms of how to navigate, course requirements, where to get information is all contained in that student handbook. There's also some really good information there about what you can expect and about your rights as a student. And there are other resources, and I would really encourage you, particularly as a thesis student who has to navigate and negotiate the very complex terrain of a relationship with a mentor and with forming a committee, things that are outside of the context of taking courses, right? Usually with courses, the expectations are very clear, right? You show up to class, you submit a paper, you get a mark, right? But in the mentoring relationship that will ensue moving forward with your supervisor, your advisor, and your committee, sometimes the expectations can be a bit unclear. It's a bit more informal. Sometimes there's less transparency, but there's a lot of resources both in the handbook and also in other in places like the School of Graduate Studies, where you can get information about the expectations of the university, about what you can expect from your advisor, what you can expect from your supervisor, what you're entitled to as a student. And I would strongly encourage you to get familiar with those terms because they might be really important for you as you move forward. As I think you already heard, the course enrollment begins on July 13th. I would urge you to put aside that time. It's very important that you get the courses that you want to get to, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. The course schedule will be available on July 6th, so you can start to get familiar with it. As you look at courses, keep in mind that because the students in the thesis track, so PhD and MA students, there's fewer of you than there are of many other programs. And faculty often like to give thesis track students, because you are in such a demanding and theoretically grounded track, faculty feel that it's really important that you have access to the content that you need to be able to do your research. And so for the most part, it's really important that you approach course selection also by selecting faculty that you're interested in working with, and that you reach out to faculty. So even if during course enrollment you have trouble getting into a class that you think is really important, as a thesis track student, I really encourage you to reach out to specific faculty and to ask them about their courses and get information about the courses that they're teaching, and that you are really proactive because again, there's fewer of you. So sometimes it might feel like, oh my God, this place is full of med students. But I want to really encourage you to take on this course enrollment process really proactively, and to not be afraid to reach out to faculty to ask. You know, faculty may say no, but it's really important that you're proactive. Review the registration checklist that's in the CTL handbook. And also really important that if you haven't done so already, you activate your user ID. This user ID is kind of your key, your access key to all of the resources and all of the opportunities that the University of Toronto and OSE have to offer you. So it's really, really important that you activate that user ID, and that you make sure that you know how to use it, and that you have it sort of operating properly. Oops. So MA degree requirements. So this might be a little bit redundant, but I just want to make sure that you have at least an opportunity to go through them. So MA students are required to take at least 8 half courses. And by half course, we mean a course that lasts for a semester, so a 12-week course. Or in the case of intersession and summer courses, they're 6-week courses that meet twice a week. So that's what we mean by an 8 half course. At least 4 of those courses have to be in the curriculum and pedagogy course catalog. And the other 4 can actually be taken pretty much anywhere, not just in CTL, but across OSE, across the University of Toronto, and even outside of the University of Toronto. So the U of T is part of a network of universities. And as long as you are able to obtain permission, and permission from both the other university and the School of Graduate Studies, if there are courses that interest you in places like York or other universities, Toronto Metropolitan University, if that is the case, though, I encourage you to try to plan for that well in advance. So like 6 months in advance, contact the professor and start to organize your paperwork, because it can be a bit, the administrative work to do that is quite complicated. But also I would say initially, I would really encourage you to focus on completing your requirements. So take advantage of the great selection of courses in CMP. It is possible, and there's a kind of a note here, this applies to both MA and PhD students. Sometimes as your work advances, you realize that there may be gaps in your knowledge base, or you and your advisor may decide that actually you need to take more courses. It is possible, particularly with the support of your advisor or your supervisor, that if you find yourself after having taken 8 courses that there's a gap in knowledge that you need in order to advance your research, you may be able to take additional courses. And that's something that you should consult with your advisor or your supervisor, and that you find out, because you do need permission to do that. You can take them on the program on a full-time or a part-time basis. In terms of the MA, it can be full-time or part-time. Some of you are full-time students, some of you are part-time students. So the two course requirements, and again, this is the same requirement for both PhD and MA students in the thesis track, is that you're required to take our Foundations of Curriculum. I'm going to say a little bit more about a specific opportunity for MA and PhD students for that course. And you also have to take a research methods course. There's a long list that you can find on the CTL website. There's a good 25 courses that you can select, and you only have to take one of those. Typically, students in the thesis track, MA and PhD students, take more than one methods course, because you are conducting research for your thesis, and it's very important that you have a really strong foundation in research. So most MA and PhD students end up taking 2 and sometimes 3 research methods courses. You have to complete the requirements of the course within the first 6 years that you are a student. For MA full-time students who are funded, we try to really encourage them to move through the program fairly quickly because of the funding issues. So if you're a full-time MA student, I encourage you to talk to your advisor about how to strategically plan to move through the course program and through the requirements quickly, so that you can get to the thesis writing as quickly as possible. Part-time students have a bit more flexibility, but then there's a financial implication, right? The longer you take, the more tuition you have to pay. So it's also a good idea to be strategic. Here's some more information about the courses, the range of courses that you can take, whether they're CTL, what we call CTL 1000 levels, which are the courses that are specific to CMP, or the CTL 5000 levels, which are courses that are in the learning and literacies, language and literacies program. Those are the 5,000 courses.
Sorry, Ruben.
Yeah.
Just to mention the 5,000 courses, the number is 5,000 to 5,299. Those are also CMP courses as well.
Right.
Yeah,
both, right?
sorry.
The cross-listed courses.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Sure. Yeah. And they count as your requirement. So whether they're 1,000 levels or 5,000 levels, they count towards your CMP required courses. PhD, so they're similar. Full-time PhD students have to complete their degree within the time frame for full-time is 6 years. So that's sort of your window of time. I would say that most students finish their PhD somewhere between 4 and 6 years, depending on the kind of research that you're doing. Obviously, during the time of COVID, that time period has been thrown off a bit because of COVID, the impact that COVID has had on research. But we hope that we'll be able to get back to a 4 to 6 year time range. And flexible PhD students need to complete the degrees within 8 years, so you have a little bit more time. The degrees requirements for both FlexTime and PhD are exactly the same. So you have to take 7 half courses. At least of those 4 of them have to be in curriculum and pedagogy, same as the MA program. And additional courses, again, could be required depending on where your research is at. Again, you're required to take Foundations of Curriculum, and you're required to take the research methods. And then there's one other course that doctoral students are required to take, and it's called a doctoral proseminar. You are strongly, strongly encouraged, and I'm going to talk about this opportunity in a moment. You're strongly, strongly, strongly encouraged to take the proseminar during your first year of your doctoral program. The reason for that is that the doctoral proseminar is a bit of an enculturation opportunity. It's a bit of an opportunity for you to become familiar with academic life, what it means to do academic work, get familiar with the course requirements, talk to other PhD students, build community with the incoming doctoral students. So the doctoral proseminar is not so much directed towards content, although you will learn a lot in that course. It's really more directed towards sort of socializing you into the work of an academic and into the work of doing research and doing, we talk about careers, academic careers. We talk about how to form your committee. We talk about how to select a supervisor. We talk about your comprehensive exams, what they involve. So it's a really important that if possible, you take that course during your first year or no later than your second year. For PhD students, in order for you to achieve what we call candidacy, so you may have heard the term ABD, all but dissertation is the term that is often used. In order to achieve candidacy, you have to have completed all your courses, so the 7 half courses with all the requirements. You have to have successfully completed your comprehensive exam, and we can talk a little bit more about that. It sounds really ominous, but it's really just basically a paper. It's like a term paper that you have to submit. That sets you up for conducting your research. And you have to successfully have formed a thesis committee. So, and usually that requires some progress in terms of having at least a draft of a proposal for your dissertation in order for you to form a thesis committee. That again sounds really ominous, but it's really just submitting a form that the people who have agreed to be on your thesis committee, your supervisor and your 2 committee members have agreed to supervise your thesis and have completed that form. Once you have those 3 requirements done, then you are technically what's called all but dissertation, and you've achieved candidacy. Okay, so now I want to go back to the 2 requirements for PhD students. MA students, this will be interest for you because you are in fact allowed to participate in these, but you're not required to. But I would say for those of you MA students who might be considering or are taking the MA as a stepping stone towards becoming PhD students, this might be of interest to you and you might want to take advantage of this. So this year we're doing a bit of an experiment. One of the issues that we've heard from PhD students and MA students is that they feel that when they take their Foundations of Curriculum and Pedagogy course, and there's a lot of students who are in a different track, it's really hard for them to really get the theoretical foundations that they need to move to the comprehensive exam. And so what we're doing is we're doing a bit of an experiment where we're going to be alternating on Monday nights between the proseminar, which is a requirement, just to describe for you, and you can see sort of what the description of the course is here, and a section of Foundations of Curriculum and Pedagogy. And I'm very happy to say that Professor Rob Simon, my colleague Rob Simon, who has been Associate Chair for Student Experience in our department for a few years, and myself are going to be alternating this. So I will be teaching the Foundations of Curriculum and Pedagogy, and Rob Simon will be teaching the CMP Doctoral Proseminar. And I'm also really happy to share that both courses will be supported by 2 advanced doctoral students, 2 teaching assistants. So this is a really, really unique and I think good opportunity for you all because you're going to be taking a foundations course that is completely targeted to helping you as a doctoral student to get the theoretical foundation that you need to move forward, and where the focus of the course is going to be really on the specific needs and the preparation of you as a PhD thesis track student. MA students are also welcome to join these courses. So as an MA student, if you have not taken foundations, you can in fact enroll in this foundations course. It's only PhD and MA students. So this is a very unique opportunity just for you. MA students are also not required to take the doctoral proseminar, but they're allowed to join the doctoral proseminar if they're interested. With the caveat, of course, that a lot of the time in the doctoral proseminar is spent talking about things that are actually quite specific to PhD students, that are relevant to MA students, but that are really specific to PhD students. So this is going to happen starting in September, basically on alternating Mondays. The doctoral proseminar always happens all year round, starts in September and ends in April. And so we're going to do the same thing with foundation. So you will basically be taking these 2 courses throughout the entire year from September to April. That might seem a bit strange, but the feedback that we've been getting, we've been doing the proseminar now for almost 12 years. And the feedback that we always get from students is that they really love the fact that they get an opportunity to work with a group of students for an entire year. So you will be with this group of students and with the 2 of us, with Professor Simon and myself, basically from September to April. And it's an opportunity to build community. It's an opportunity to really draw strong connections and to build a really strong foundation to help you move forward in the program. And I'm happy to take questions about this once we finish. In terms of course load, so usually for full-time students, the maximum is 6 half courses. And you can distribute that 6 half courses throughout the year. So fall and winter sessions. So we usually have, if this may be unclear, we have 4 core sessions. So we have the fall, which is 12 weeks. We have the winter, that is 12 weeks. And then we have what we call intersession, which is 6 weeks in May and June. And then we have the summer session, which is 6 weeks in July and August. The intersession and summer sessions are intensive. So instead of meeting once a week for 3 hours, you meet for twice a week for 3 hours. You can take up to a maximum of 2 half courses in each term during the summer session, during either of the summer sessions, intersession and summer sessions. Flex time students is roughly the same. The expectation is that you're taking 1 to 3 half courses during each session, and then a maximum of 2 half courses during the summer and intersession sessions. And then part-time students in the MA can take 1 half course in each session, fall, winter, and summer. But again, it's important that you are in touch with your advisor to talk about the progress to your courses and to see if there's any exceptions that need to be made to these sort of rough rules. Okay, so in terms of the, I'll go back to the emphases. So these are sort of the courses that are available in the interest areas in curriculum pedagogy. We try to make sure that every term there are at least 2 to 5 courses in each of these areas, so that at any given time during the course, during the year, you have access to courses in arts and education, assessment and evaluation, and critical studies in curriculum and pedagogy. And these are also some of the ways in which our emphases are organized. So for example, we have an emphasis in arts and education. And again, when you look for the information about emphases, you can remember, yes, here they are. Here are the 6 emphases. Online, you can find a list of courses that are listed for each of these emphases. So if you're interested in digital technologies, there's a long list of courses in digital technologies. In order to get an emphasis, and this is basically a note in your, when you get your degree, you basically have a PhD in curriculum and pedagogy with an emphasis in critical studies in curriculum and pedagogy, or an emphasis in indigenous education and decolonization. And in order to get an emphasis, you just have to take courses, 3 courses in that list, which is really not that difficult actually when you think about it, because the list is quite long. And if you're really interested in something like arts and education or well-being, you want to take those courses anyways, right? So you can ask for the registrar to annotate that on your transcript so that it's documented that you have completed an emphasis in one of these 6 areas. And we're also happy to take questions about that. These are the collaborative specializations that I mentioned before. Again, some of these are OEC specific, so the society, the first one, and some of these are cross U of T, so engineering education, sexual diversity, women and gender studies. These are comparative specializations that cut across the university. And again, we know more about some of these and less about others because of the nature of the structure of these specializations. Funding and employment, I know this is really important. I know, in fact, that those of you who are in getting GA ships, I think your deadline was yesterday, so hopefully you were able to complete that task and rank the graduate assistantships. And that's specific to those who get graduate-based funding package, which are the full-time MA students and the full-time PhD students. As part of your funding package, you get a graduate assistantship. And then you're also required to apply for external funding through external scholarships, like the SHIRP doctoral program and the Ontario, what is it called? OGS, the Ontario Graduate Scholarship. You also have opportunities that for all of you can access research assistant opportunities. We are a very research intensive faculty. Professor Brandt is here, and she has research projects, and I myself have a number of research projects. Pretty much every tenured or pre-tenure or what we call research stream faculty at OEC has very active research programs, and we're always looking for research assistants and hiring them. Research assistantships are independent positions that anybody can have. So whether you're full-time, part-time, MA, PhD, even sometimes we hire MS students, you can access research assistantships. There are also a number of graduate assistantships or GA-ships that you have access to. They call them Group B. So, so stay tuned for communication from Michelle and from Cheryl about, particularly those of you who are in the non-funded programs. There are some regulations about how many times you can apply for those and how many times you can have GA-ships. So it's important that you get really familiar with that. And you also have access to some scholarships. So whether you're funded or not, you are able to apply for funding, so scholarship funding. And again, part-time MAs students have access, as I said earlier, to research assistantships. During the year, you will see, and believe it or not, after 16 years in this program, there's still a lot of things that I just don't know the answer to. And it's in part because we have this incredible staff. You've met Cheryl, maybe so many of you have met Danny. You've clearly have met Michelle and Terry Louisi, who have a wealth of information. And I often find myself redirecting students to them, not because I'm being lazy, but just because I want to give the wrong answer. And oftentimes I do give the wrong answer because as faculty members, we don't necessarily have the most up-to-date information about requirements, about forms. And so it's really important that you get to know these really amazing people because of the wealth of information that they have, but also because they're incredible people, right? I mean, Cheryl is here, Danny, Terry, Michelle, they're just really, really incredible people for you to get to know. They're incredible human beings who really care about you and about your progress. Not that we don't care about you or your progress as faculty members, but Danny, Terry, Michelle, and Cheryl have a lot of information, and we'll make sure that you have access to that information and can help you problem solve a lot of things that sometimes we as faculty, either because we lack the information or we lack the time, it's much harder for us to support you in terms of navigating the bureaucracy of U of T. So those are your contacts. A couple of pro tips here that you can have access to online for the newly admitted students. You can get some information there. And then some other places to get information, CTL admissions, which I know is Cheryl and Michelle, and then the registrar's office. So I'm gonna stop sharing, and I don't know that you can write into the chat. So maybe just raise your hand, or you can also, I think you can send us chat messages directly to the co-host. So that would be Jennifer, Cheryl, or myself. I don't know if Amanda is also a co-host, and also Sonia. I don't know if you're a co-host, but either raise your hand, post a message. But before we do that, I just want to give a moment to Professor Brandt, just in case that I missed anything, or if there's anything that you want to add as a faculty member to what I just went through.
Sure, that was really helpful for me as well, because as you said, sometimes as faculty, we're not up to date on like the most recent forms. And so I too am also often referring students to Cheryl and Danny, Terry and Michelle, just to make sure that they're getting the correct information. Yeah, I don't think you missed anything that I can think of. Thank you.
Amanda or Sonia, anything that you'd like to add before, as students, from your student perspective, before we open up for questions?
I'm good, actually. Okay, go ahead, Amanda.
Yeah, I was just going to say, as Sonia said before, not taking on too much, but definitely getting involved, I think is so important. And that piece of networking, I found so beneficial in my own journey, and also listening to your intuition, like just being intuitive and listening to your intuition when it comes to your course selection and what your research interests are, just listening to that and following that and connecting with the professors that align with that. And I cannot speak highly enough of all of the incredible support that I've gotten in such a short time in the year. So I feel like I've grown so much in this space, and so just encouraging everybody to take advantage of that. And also for course selection, I would highly recommend definitely being online at 6 a.m. in the morning if you can. Just if there are courses that you're interested in taking, make sure, because they do fill up quickly. I was grateful I was able to get all of the courses that I've wanted to take, but I would just encourage you to be online and make sure you get the ones that you want. So thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Amanda. Sonia.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. Just do, as Amanda said, just do log in at 6 a.m. because initially I thought, okay, I'll just go on at 6:01, and then the course was taken. So I was like, next year I was like, okay, 5:55, I was up. I was like, I'm going to have a head start this year. So do that, and yeah, just connect and attend formal or even informal events, like we have movie nights and all that. So like do enjoy that experiences as well. Yeah.
Thanks, Sonia. Cheryl, anything I missed that you want to add?
No, I wouldn't say that you missed anything. Thank you very much for the presentation. I just wanted to maybe add a little bit to what Amanda and Sonia were saying about course selection. I just wanted to emphasize the fact that the space where you can look at the range of courses is different from the space where you actually enroll in the courses. So the registrar's office here at OISE, they post a list of all of the courses that are being offered by all 4 departments here at OISE. And so starting on July the 6th, that's when you would go to that space and look at the courses that are available and start thinking about which ones you'd like to enroll in. And I would encourage people to think about, maybe second or third choices, just in case you don't necessarily get your first choice, at 6 a.m. And so you'll see the courses on the registrar's office's website. And then on the 16th at 6 a.m., you're going to be going to a space called Acorn. And that's basically the student web service. And that's where you would actually enroll in courses. So, the prep, I think, is very important before the 16th. So you don't want to just sort of hit the Acorn site cold on the 16th. You want to go and take a look at the courses first and, just make some selections and get some ideas before you start enrolling. So that's all I wanted to add.
Yeah. And I would definitely add your name to the wait list. There's always a lot of movement, especially with advanced courses and courses with full-time faculty. Sometimes people take a course because this title sounds pretty, but then they realize there's actually a lot of work in that course, especially with courses that have more of a theoretical orientation that would help me, that would be actually really helpful to you as PhD students. So often I find that sometimes I have a wait list of 12 people and all 12 people get in because there's 12 people who thought they wanted the course and then they read the syllabus and they're like, oh no, I don't want to do this. And then they withdraw once they know sort of the focus of the course. So and don't be afraid to write to faculty and say, hey, I'm a PhD student or I'm an MMA student. This is the area of my work. I really want to take your course. I'm on the wait list, but it really helps to make that personal connection with faculty. So do you have questions? Let's see, we have a good few minutes. Jane, yes, hi, welcome.
Hello, my name's Jane. I am a PhD Flex student, and I'm going to be doing some work with Jim Slaughter, looking at my area that I'm kind of interested in right now is a lot to do with conversation and student identity and how we use that to inform assessment and evaluation practices. Scientists are really good at making observations, but we're just not that great at conversations. So yes. We're going to work on that. But my question relates to flex time. I don't know if there's other flex time people here. How many courses do people generally recommend? I'm going to be working full-time, obviously, when I take these courses. So I was curious as to whether or not maybe Amanda or other people have been working and doing their studies at the same time. How many courses did you take? And the second question I have, which leads into that, the Monday alternating throughout the year, is that face-to-face or is that online? Thank you for my allowing me to ask questions.
Thanks, Jane. Amanda, I'll let you answer first in terms of to direct the question to you in terms of course load.
So I am doing full-time. So I'm doing my MA full-time. So to answer that, I wouldn't be very helpful, but I do have colleagues that are doing their flex time PhD. And typically they've been taking one course, like only one course each term. Yeah.
Yeah. What I would add, so in terms of the pro-seminar, that is going to be mostly online, but it will be hybrid. So there will be a couple of times when we will try to gather as a group, depending again on guidelines and what's happening with U of T. I have to say, I just went back to campus with my editorial team for the journal that I edit and for a retreat that we were holding last week. And it was really exciting to be face-to-face with people. So I feel like I got a little spoiled this week. I got a little taste of what things were like. And I'm actually really looking forward to being back in person with people. But those two courses that will be on Mondays, and I should clarify the two courses will be alternating. So it's actually every Monday. So on some Mondays you'll have pro-seminar, on some Mondays you'll have foundations, every Monday from September to April. And it will be hybrid. I find that students, one thing to keep in mind in terms of your question, Jane, is that Some courses don't require a lot of you. So for example, the per-seminar is a course that is really more about building community. So it's not a heavy load of reading and writing. Foundations, on the other hand, is. So those two courses actually make for a good match. And there's other courses like that. And what I find the best source of information about course load is your peers, your students. They are the ones to tell you. I am really bad at telling you what course is a lot of work and what course is not, because I really don't know. But students are a really wonderful source of information for, how demanding is this course? How demanding is this professor? What do they expect? So I would say reach out to students and ask for their opinion about courses. Jessica.
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up with Jane's second half of the question, whether the pro seminar and the foundations courses, they're full year, but every other year. So are they half credits or full credits?
They're each half credit. So
there's still a half, okay.
Right, because they're 12 weeks each, right? So basically we're taking the 24 weeks of the fall and the winter and we're splitting them between the per-seminar and the foundations. Okay. So in the end, each of them counts for a half credit, but also each of them is a requirement. So at the end of that year, you will have completed not just 2 half courses, but you will have completed those 2 requirements as a PhD student, the foundations requirement and the per-seminar requirement. Yeah.
Wonderful. And then my other question had to do with just a little bit about timing and things, which maybe might be a question for Cheryl, but or it could be for you as well, since you help students with that. When do you apply for scholarships like SSHRC or OGS? You're sort of supposed to do that in addition to applying for the GA-ship, but I thought when I did my master's, it was like you had to have a research focus, and I don't have a project yet to apply to. So how does that work in your first year? Is that more for subsequent years?
So the deadlines vary. So, and sometimes they move from year to year. I think SSHRC is in December and OGS is in March. Cheryl, do you know?
Yes, that's about right. Yeah, typically the scholarship and awards deadlines are fairly far in advance of when they actually start paying the money to people. So yes, Ruban is right. It happens far in advance. And yes, OGS is typically March, and SSHRC, I think, late fall, November, December, I think.
But in terms of your question, Jessica, about preparation, so what I find is that, yes, as a first year, it is hard to apply for these grants because you don't yet quite know what your research is going to be. As an advisor, I find that it's actually a really helpful opportunity for you to begin to think in terms of research and for me to help you, right? It's like the first opportunity that you have to interact with your advisor or potential supervisor in a kind of feedback relationship, right? So I would see it more as an exercise. And in fact, as someone who mentors academics, I always say, you don't do this work in order to get what you're applying for. You do it in order to refine your ideas. Because most of the time, myself, I've been doing this for 25 years, and 90% of the time, I don't get what I apply for. So most of the time, we don't get it. So you can't really see it in terms of, with the idea that you're doing this in order to get something. You're doing this because it's part of your intellectual work. And if you get it, it's a bonus, right? So see it in your first year, see it as an opportunity to start to think in those terms and to develop a relationship with your advisor. If that's
okay. And then I had one more question about the funding package. And the GA-ship is part of the funding package, like it's not additional money, right? That is kind of how you earn that funding package.
That's right.
Putting in those hours for it. Okay, that's what I had assumed. And then tuition wise was my last question, was you're allowed to take more than the 7 allotted half courses. Does that still, like if I took 8 or 9, is that the same? Do you pay tuition per course per year? Like what is the allowance in terms of adding those extra courses with that funding package?
You don't, so as a full-time student, you don't pay additional for taking extra courses, no.
Okay, so it's just all included.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I wanted to mention though, in terms of extra courses, ideally, students are asked to take just the number of courses that are required because, I mean, CTL does try and put as many courses available as possible each session, but it's still a limited number. So the priority is for students to be able to meet their degree requirements. And so extra courses, we try not to encourage people to take a lot of those. CTL's coordinator of graduate programs is Mr. Terry Louisi. And so if you're thinking of maybe taking some extra courses, it's good to maybe touch base with him first, just to, kind of get permission before you take more than your allotted 7 or 8 courses.
Yeah. Now it's 11:03, and I know I see four more hands. So what I'd like to do is, Wendy, Tien, Gabrielle, and Talar, I'm just going to give you an opportunity to ask your questions, all your questions, so we can get them all out, and then we'll try to answer them all together as quickly as possible so that we can move through the questions as we can. Okay. So Wendy, hi, nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you too. I just had a question about for courses that are required for PhD students, but optional for master's students. When we enroll and register in them, are we given like first priority because it's a requirement, or is it just a free for all come 6 a.m.?
Actually, I can answer that really quickly. Those courses only PhD, MS students have to get permission from the instructor to take them. So for the foundation section, only PhD and MA students can enroll in.
Okay, and second quick question. I'd love to reach out to students who are already in the program in second, third year. Is there a list of like the current students and even their, research focus so that we can reach out to them?
Great. And maybe Amanda and Denia, can you answer that question on the chat if you have that resource? That would be amazing.
Thank
or
you.
Cheryl, if you know where to find that information. Tien.
Hello, I'm sorry, I'm not be able to open the video. So I have two questions. So first about bus registration. So if I understand it correctly, for the 7 half courses, this is 5 compulsory half courses and 2 elective half courses. At the same time, we are required to have 3 half courses for our in-courses, and then 1 foundation half courses, 1 research half course, and 1 doctoral pro seminar as another half course. So in total, I am seeing here that we are requested to take 6 half courses. Yeah, on the other hand, there are 5 compulsory half courses. So I'm talking about the calculation.
Yeah, sorry about that confusion, Tien. Let me take all the questions and then we'll clarify that in a moment. Yeah, that's just the way that I described it was confusing, but it only adds up to 7.
All right, thank you.
Gabrielle, what's
Yeah.
your question? Hi, Gabrielle.
Yeah,
nice to see you here.
Hello.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Hello. I'm just asking a little bit of clarification. First, do we have summer funding? Like, do the courses we take in the summer, do we have to pay for them, or is it part of our package?
Yeah, it's part of your package. It is part of your package.
Awesome. And the other thing is the foundations and seminar course are like, for example, if I'm taking 3 courses in the fall and 3 courses in the winter, would the foundations and seminar take up 2 spots in them as classes,
Only
or
one.
was 1 class?
Yeah, only 1 spot because it's half and half. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sorry, Tien, were you trying to ask another question?
Oh, yes, I was typing my question. So the other question is about the study mode. So is it a possibility that we study like remotely? I am asking if you are offering courses that we can study virtually, or we are requested to study in person, or it depends on the courses provided by each instructor.
Yeah,
That's a
that
second
depends on
question.
the courses. Yeah, it depends on the courses, and it's kind of shifting at the moment. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll go back to your first question in a moment, Tien. I just want to make sure that Talar and Shannon. Also, Gabrielle, did you have another question?
No, sorry, I'll put my hand down.
Excellent, thank you. Talar?
Yes, hi.
Correctly?
Yes, Talar. It's an Armenian name. So thank you for all this information. And I have a question. If I want to continue to my PhD, and I'm doing my master's now because I have a master's in TEFL and I want to specialize in curriculum and pedagogy. So if I do my master's and connect it with my PhD and then do a research, can that be done? Or should I do my research for MA and then research for PhD?
Okay. I'll go back to that question in a moment, Talar. Thank you. I just want to get Sharon's question, and then I'll go back to Tien's first question and to Talar's. Hi, Sharon.
Awesome. Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for doing this today. I just
great
want
to have you here.
Awesome. I'm so sorry if you already addressed this, but I did see it on the MA slide, but I'm just wondering, can PhD students take courses at other institutions as well?
Yeah. Yes, the answer is yes. Quickly
Okay.
to that. Yeah, that's for all students. Again, I'd say just plan well in advance because it does take a fair bit of bureaucracy to get those courses approved. So, so plan well in advance for courses outside of U of T. For courses inside of OISD, it's actually fairly simple. It's not that complicated. You just really you have access to those courses through Acorn. I'm just going to go back, Talar, to your question real quick regarding research. So it is not, let me just to make sure that I don't misunderstand your question. So you cannot count, the thesis that you write for your MA is the thesis for your MA. And that's separate from the research that you do as a PhD student. And it is actually very common for MA students to apply to the PhD. In fact, they're often quite successful because the MA gives you a really solid foundation for pursuing PhD studies. And second, because you have relationships with faculty who can support that process. What is not possible is to count them the same. So you can build upon, right? So whatever, usually MA research projects are quite small scale. MA theses are often, 80, 90 pages. They're quite focused, they're limited in scope, they're good for pilot studies. Sometimes they involve more of a lit review. PhD research it's much more broad, right? So some people will use their MA thesis as a stepping stone towards a larger study for the PhD, and that's entirely acceptable. What doesn't work is you can't do an MA and then have that research count towards a PhD. You can use it as a stepping stone, but you can't count it towards your PhD. Hopefully that answers your question, Talar. But I want to really encourage you, all of you who are here who are MA students, if you are thinking that you would like to continue with PhD research, is that you say that upfront, right? As soon as you, that should be a question that your advisor should ask you from the beginning. Like, is your intention to continue this path, or are you just doing this because you're exploring research? Is this just sort of something that you're doing for your own edification? Because it really, for me as a supervisor, it really shapes the way that I mentor people, depending on what their career trajectories are. So make that explicit. Tian, sorry for the confusion about the courses. So the required courses, foundations, the research methods, and per seminar, all count as CTL courses. So the 4 CTL 1000 level courses that you're supposed to take, 3 of those can be the 3 that are required. So it's not on top of those 4. You're not doing 4 CTL 1000 courses and then on top of that doing foundations, research methods, and per seminar. They all count as that. So in effect, after you take those 3 requirements, you're really only required to take 1 more 1000 course. And so I don't recommend it because obviously this is your program and you should get a really strong foundation in CMP. So you should take a lot of courses in CMP, but they don't count as on top of that. Does that clarify for you, Tian?
Yes, very much helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Excellent. And Sharon, did you have another question? Your hand is still raised. I don't know if you wanted to ask something else.
I always have tons of questions, so it's probably not worth it today.
Excellent. Good. All right, so maybe we'll take one more from Jessica and then we'll go. And if you need to leave, obviously it's 11:11 already, so you need to leave.
Thank you so much. This has been really, really helpful. I had 2 really quick admin questions, and they were, where do I update my vaccine status? Because I don't think that's been part of all of the things I've signed and done yet. And the second one is, oh my gosh, where is it? I don't know, I'll ask it in a second. Oh, I do, the UTOR ID card, sorry, what you need to go pick up in person. If most of my courses are meeting online to start, do I need that for anything virtually or just when I actually attend campus and just go early on my first in-class person day?
It's a Cheryl question, so I'll let Cheryl.
Yes. Thank you.
So for the T card, I think let's see here. I'm just looking on the information about that in the newly admitted student section because we don't actually administrate the T card process. So I'm just seeing here because I
can look it up. I don't need it for any reason. For if my courses are online in the first couple of weeks, I don't need to go this summer and pick up a card, do I? That's just for being on
I don't
campus.
think you need to go pick it up, but I think that there's a process where you can sort of do it online.
I've registered, I've uploaded a picture, I've done all that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was just the vaccine status to be able to come onto campus. I didn't know where that was.
For the vaccine status information, I'm just going to take a look at
while Cheryl is looking for that information, I just want to thank everyone for being here with us today. Sharon, I know you have one more question and I'm happy to stick around, but I just want to thank everyone. And I really hope that you will join us for the section of foundations focused on PhD and MA students. I think my suspicion is that if you ask any PhD student, they're going to tell you, take it just for the PhD students. So I think I look forward to meeting many of you during the foundations course in the fall and sharing with you, and welcome to the program. And I look forward to hopefully working with many of you. Yeah, and thanks Jennifer for being here, and thanks Amanda, and thanks Sonia, and thanks Cheryl for everything. Sharon, did you want to ask something?
Okay, I just placed a link in the chat for OISE COVID-19 related updates. If you're not able to find the information there through which, in terms of updating your COVID status, COVID vaccination status, you can send me a message and I'll take a look further. So I'm going to put my email address in the chat, and anybody who has, questions that might occur to them after this session, you're welcome to send me a message, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can with some information.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, so there's my email address in the chat. So yeah, feel free to send a message if you've got further questions.
Thanks, Cheryl. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. It was a pleasure seeing you all. Thank you.
Oh, Joshua, do you have another question?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry.
Clapping for you.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Well, thank you, everybody. It's great to see you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This was really helpful. I really appreciate the session.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
I look forward to taking your course. Rob Simon is my advisor, and he just speaks the world of you. So I'm looking forward to it.
Process. Just
thank you.
Just kidding.
Bye.
All right, take care.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
So do we have to go back to the lobby, or are we good? We're good to go?
I don't think we have to. I might just go back and see if I can go in there just for staff, it might, but yeah, I think other than that, I think we're done. Thank you so much, Ben. Thank you.
Yeah,
all right, bye. Oh, hello, Sharon. Did you have any additional questions? Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm unable to hear you. You're muted at the moment. Let me know if you have any additional questions. Otherwise, we'll end the session. Oh, sorry, you're still muted. Okay, well, it looks like you might not have any further questions, but I've left my email address in the chat space. It's cheryl.j.clark@UToronto.